Hey there, this is Patrice Washington from patricewashington.com, where we chase purpose, not money. So today I want to talk about how to spot bad advice. Now, one thing I know for sure is that if you want to build wealth or go to your next level of success, it is so important to surround yourself with the right people. And sometimes that might mean just for support and encouragement. But I feel like every once in a while we get it twisted and we assume that those people have to be the ones to give us advice. Now, I consider myself to be someone who's very coachable. I thrive on feedback. I don't mind people giving me constructive criticism at all. But I've also learned that sometimes the people that are giving us advice, even though they mean well, it's just not the right advice for me. And so I've had to take a step back oftentimes and really assess a few things about how to know if this advice is really for me or if I just need to leave them in the bucket of support and encouragement. So here are a few things for you to consider. Number one, is the person giving you advice actually where you want to be in life, or have they been where you're going? See, a lot of times people have tons of advice to give you, but they really haven't even been on the journey themselves. So how can they give you that advice? They're taking things that they learned from other places or maybe heard about or watched on TV. But a lot of times they really can't walk you through a journey that they haven't walked through themselves. So for example, if let's say you want to buy a home, should you really be taking advice about this journey from someone who's rented for 30 years? Or if you're trying to start a business or grow your business to the next level, can you really take too much advice from someone who's only been in a 9 to 5 and they have no idea about the mindset or behavior or strategies you need to move to the next level? Again, I'm all about advice, I'm all about feedback, and I'm very coachable. But if you haven't been where I'm going, we have to limit that and take it with a grain of salt. Maybe they can support you, maybe they can be an advocate, maybe they can be an encourager. Doesn't necessarily mean that they can give you the advice you need to go to the next level. The second thing is the advice in alignment with your spirit? Because sometimes you get advice from people who again are well-meaning. They're giving you the advice based on their experiences, based on maybe their age, based on their background, based on their perspective and what matters to them. And that makes sense because that's the only place you can really offer advice from. But here's the thing. That's not always in alignment with who you are. It doesn't always fit your age or your background or your experience or even the vision that you have for yourself. So prime example, I had a wonderful mentor who I still love very much to this day. And before I put out my first book, Real Money Answers, College Life and Beyond in 2012, I sat down with this mentor to ask him for his feedback. And one of the first things that he said to me is, if you don't have 50,000 Twitter followers, you should not be writing a book. And I was like, man, this is a successful person that I've looked up to for many years. So I really started to internalize that. I literally went home almost with my head hanging down because I'm like, I don't have anything close to 50,000 Twitter followers, but I really feel like I'm ready. And I feel like based on the response I'm getting from people and the engagement I have in social media, this will be a great look for me. And so the next morning, I woke up and really had to think about it and pray about it. And I determined that although he's successful in what he does and although he means well, this is not in alignment with me. And so I made a decision to go ahead and publish my first book in 2012. And I'm so glad that I did because 4 books later, international speaking opportunities, the podcast, these videos, the audience that I have, all has come because I pushed through and found what was in alignment with me. If I hadn't have done that, I still wouldn't be an author to this day. Because guess what? I only have 13,000 Twitter followers at this taping. So sometimes, even if someone's successful and they mean well, you still have to check and make sure that the advice they're giving you is in alignment with where you feel led to go. And the third way you can kind of spot bad advice is to ask yourself, is it something in this for them? Like, why is someone choosing to give you the advice? Again, I'm totally coachable, but there's one thing when you ask for help, and then there's another thing when someone offers you unsolicited advice. And you always have to make sure that the motive is actually what they're making it out to be. So, for example, several years ago, I was speaking at a conference and I was super excited because I was finally going to get to meet a woman that I looked up to as a speaker and an author, and I had been following her in social media. And so, from the moment we met, we hit it off. I thought she was awesome. By the end of the day, she literally adopted me as her little sister in the speaking world. And the next morning, we spoke at the conference. We both spoke. And when I was done, by the time we got to lunch, she says to me, because you're like my little sister, I want to tell you something. And it started out friendly. And before I knew it, she was ripping me apart. Literally, she told me about the clothes that I had on and that my jewelry wasn't right and that I should tone down my makeup and that I should watch how I spoke on stage and how I walked on stage. I mean, she literally ripped me apart. And oftentimes in these instances, I'm usually one of the youngest speakers. And so, especially for those of you that are young, you also feel like if someone's older than you, they've been in the business longer, or they've been doing whatever longer, that they automatically know what's best. Well, again, I went to sleep that night kind of internalizing what she said and really thinking about, wow, should I change what I wear? Should I change how I speak? Should I change something up? And then the truth came out. Because the next morning before we departed to go to the airport, she made mention of the fact that I could be a part of her coaching group where she walks young speakers like me through the process, and it all made sense. Because the day before, when we got done speaking, not to be petty, but the truth is, my line was about 3 times the size of her line, which means I was effective and I was relatable for the audience. But she tried to break me down the day before so that she could tell me that she was the solution the next morning. And so you always have to check yourself or check the advice and make sure that when someone is giving you advice, it's from a pure place, it's with the right intention, and that there's no ulterior motives. Because in that instance, the advice was only there so that I could hopefully buy a program from her the next day. So now I want to hear from you. How have you learned to spot bad advice? And which of these tips do you think will help you next time? We definitely want to hear from you because remember, I'm building a community of women who want to grow with me. And that means that you want to live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever chasing money.